Yay. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so happy to see your smiling faces. I'm so grateful that you all joined me tonight from various points on the globe with your in the middle of your breaks. But yeah, tonight's panel, we're just going to jump in. Tonight's panel is really a chance to explain so much more and bring to light so much more about the individual journeys we take on a career break. You guys have such amazing experiences, but they're also different. And your purpose and reason for taking a break was so different. So I'm so excited to be able to highlight that and really bring it to life. So we're going to have some time for Q&A at the end. But if you have questions to anyone watching, like feel free to drop them in the chat as we go. I'm happy to incorporate them. But first, a little quick intro for those of you that don't know me. Who are watching the replay and don't know me, I'm Katrina. So I am a career break and sabbatical coach. I've been doing this now for 5 years, which sounds crazy to say. I counted it up yesterday and I have supported, we're at 51 career breaks. So 51 and counting, including these amazing faces that you see on the screen. Yeah, thanks, Nick. So I'm just super excited to be here and I'm very passionate about this work. And, my story is that I had gone through 2 corporate careers with an MBA in between and really realized that all I wanted was a break. And for me, that meant taking time to travel around the world, taking time to be with my family, and taking time to figure out what I really wanted to do with my life because my corporate career was not feeling aligned or even close to how I wanted to be spending my time. And so, through that journey, I returned back from my 20-month break. I landed 5 job offers in 5 weeks. And it was in that moment that I realized how powerful a break can be when you're being really intentional with how you're planning it and really intentional with how you show up for it. And so that, is how the program that I coached through, Take the Break, was born. It was born through all of the lessons I've learned and through those years of coaching, and really just taking the best of the best and, the mistakes made and learning from those and trying to help people create an amazing platform from which they can leap. And so that's a tiny bit about me. We'll talk more about that program, Take the Break, a little later. But because I have so many amazing faces here that are on a break, I want to just jump in and let them introduce themselves. So my favorite people. Are you guys ready to introduce yourself? I'd like to know your name, where you are right now, and share for us kind of your career break status, like give us an idea of how long you've been on a break. And if you can remember how long ago you joined Take the Break. And if you can't remember, I'll give you a pass because for some of you, it's been a while. So who wants to go first? Otherwise, I'll just start calling you through clockwise on my screen. Brave ones. I'm going to start calling. Francis, you're up.
Hi, everybody. My name is Francis. I am talking to you tonight from St. Croix in the Virgin Islands. And I have been on a break. I started my break a little over a month ago, early June. And I started Take the Break, I believe it was February of last year, right? Because I remember it was around my birthday. So I did Take the Break back in February of last year. What else did I want to know? Sorry, did I miss anything?
No, I think you got it. You told us where you were, how long you've been on a break, and when you did the program. So okay. Yay. Welcome, Francis. Thank you. All right. Up next is Karin.
Hi all, I'm Karin. I'm joining you from Olympia, Washington, which for those of you who don't know Washington, it's about an hour south of Seattle. And I joined Take the Break program last June with the plan to start my break in about August 2022, but it actually started last November, about mid-November 2021. It started with a medical leave, and there'll be more to that story, but that's what's different about my story.
Thank you, Karin.
Welcome.
Yeah. Up next, we've got, I love all the Ks. Next, we've got Kristen.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Kristen. I am currently in Minneapolis. On Sunday, I'm starting my break, which is really exciting. I'm starting in Ireland for about a month, and I'll be doing a 9-day walking pilgrimage. And then I'm going to study in France until about April, maybe a bit longer, depending on how things go. Thanks.
Yay, Kristen. Welcome to your break. Kim Seltzer. I think are you the newest, Kim? Are you the newest breaker? I think you are.
Yeah. Hey everyone, I'm Kim, and I'm in Philadelphia currently. I started my break on July 1st, so still very new. Had someone ask me like, oh, what do you do for a living? And like, for the first time, had to be like, wait, I don't have that job. And I did take the break starting last June.
Awesome. That leaves us with Mr. Steven.
Hey everyone, Stephen here, normally based in New York City, but currently in the Bay Area for the 6th of 6 weeks. I left my full-time job last August. I am technically still on a career break. I would say a break from my normal career, but I actually took 7 months off, completely off work, started doing some independent consulting in March, and since June, I've been in a full-time summer fellowship program in public policy that I just started, and I'm more or less now in re-entry mode. It's been almost a year, and so I'm starting to have coffee chats and think about what I want to do next, and starting to look for jobs again. So that's where I am, and I did take the break with Francis, so last January, February, for 6 months.
I can't believe you said it's almost been a year. That's crazy. That's so crazy. Okay, so you guys, welcome everyone that just joined us. If you guys have questions throughout this conversation, feel free to drop them in the chat and we will incorporate them, but we will also be leaving time at the end for Q&A if you have specific questions you want to ask any of the panelists. But now I'd just like to jump in with some questions, to bring to life your journey to take a break, to plan a break, and the experience, for those of you who have been on a break, like experience you've had. So I want to start with a question for everyone. So this one's for all of you. But can you give us the context for, before you joined the program, can you give us like the context for what your life was like and how you were feeling about a break? Maybe, how long you'd been thinking about one, or why you felt like you needed to take one or were desiring to take one. So tell us a little bit about life before you really committed and leaned into starting to plan for a break. What was going on? And let's start in reverse. Let's start with Stephen.
Okay. Sorry, my internet cut out for a second, but I think I understood. This is the context leading up to taking the break. Yeah. So I had been working in the clean energy field for a while, 11 years, 6 of those in nonprofit. About a year and a half before taking my break, I'd shifted into a new role in a new team that I would just say for various reasons, maybe there was a poor fit. So I didn't dislike my company or my boss or my peers. I actually really liked the people I was surrounded by, but I think maybe there was a mismatch between my skills and the role. And so personally, honestly, I was feeling a lot of imposter syndrome all the time. And I was feeling like I was just treading water to stay afloat. And it really took an emotional toll, I think. And that was just really draining. So I knew I needed a major reset. I was binge watching why I quit my job during a pandemic videos on YouTube and listening to podcasts and finding things. And I think on one of the podcasts, I heard Katrina, and then I saw some of her videos on YouTube as well. So that's kind of how I ended up joining the Take the Break program.
Yeah. And Stephen, can you tell us, I'm going to ask everybody this, but can you tell us when we did the purpose and themes, what was the purpose that you came out with? And share one of your themes for us.
This is homework. It's been too long. I have to think I pass on this first. I promise you that I've been living my purpose and themes so well that I don't even know how to verbalize them anymore. They just, they're in my current break life.
That's fair. I feel like you've really embodied them. And I'm excited to talk to you about the way that you sort of made the break your own in this experience. So thank you. You are now given permission to rest. Okay. Up next, let's go with Kim. Kim, what you got for us?
Yeah, so I had been thinking about taking a break for probably 4 or 5 years before I found Take the Break. And I would say I was feeling stuck in my life. I was in a role that I wasn't burnout by. I had previously had a role that was burning me out, but at the time I think I was just stuck and not feeling inspired by life. I just go about Monday through Friday, watch TV after work. There needs to be more to life than this. And I just felt like taking a break is how I could shake up my life and like return to passions I've had or find new passions. So that was my big focus. And I think I was ironically also stuck in planning the break. Like I was saving money and like that was one thing I was doing to take steps forward, but I had no idea what my break would look like. And I think I'd still like probably be in analysis paralysis without take the break.
Yeah. Thanks, Kim. Do you remember, it's okay if you don't, do you remember your purpose? Like sort of like when you decided to articulate, I mean, you've sort of explained it, but do you remember what we came up with?
Yeah, it was a catalyst to live an inspired life.
Oh, that's so good. I remember that one. I remember that now that you said that. I love it. Thank you, Kim. Up next, Kristen. Hi, Kristen. What you got for us?
So I'm a teacher, or I guess, well, I'm on leave from being a teacher, so I suppose I still am one. I was interested in doing it, but I think I was able to make it like bigger and better, like with Katrina's work, right? Like, you know, I was thinking about only doing 6 months for a while, and now I've been a little bit more courageous and thinking about, you know, doing a year or maybe longer. And my blueprint is about like kind of stepping into my new self and like who I am, on my own needs and things like that. So it's really helped me. I mean, even before the break started doing more things, like taking more time off from work, to attend a wedding in France and stuff. And that kind of stuff is hard to do when you're a teacher, but some of that stuff I even started doing before the break.
Yeah. And I know that it was definitely a challenging time being in the pandemic as a teacher.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that was also a big part of it. But, you know, I think you're a great example, Kristen, of, you know, like all different jobs, right? Like you're a teacher, you made it happen, you made the plan, and you actually went from 6 months to 12 months. So I continue to be excited for you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Up next, let's go with Karin.
Okay, so context leading up to the break, right? So I was working a 2.5-year project at the time, of healthcare IT work project that was extremely stressful. And I was extremely burnt out. I was in the rat race, on the hamster wheel, and basically living in survival mode, I would say. And my health was taking a toll too. I had sort of chronic health issues for a while, the good old leaky gut and food sensitivities and that sort of thing. But I started having more ailments as I was going through this work project. And I was just, like Kim said, I was just kind of losing life. Like, what's the purpose of this? There needs to be more to life than this. And I remember at that point in my life, a lot of family and friends would often ask me, why don't you just go get another job? And my answer was always that I'm so tired. I can't even imagine taking the energy to go get another job, much less deal with the learning curve that's associated with any new job. And then one friend asked me in follow up to that, when are you going to stop and actually make the time to take care of yourself? And that was emotional for me. And so I sort of blurted out, I don't need another job. I just need to take a break. And, but I didn't think it was possible, but that's when I really realized that I needed to take a break. And then a couple of weeks later, I had lunch with a friend, who happens to also be a life coach and know Katrina, and she sent me Katrina's link, and I read Katrina's story, and then I realized, wow, it's actually possible to take a break. And so that was the context leading up to me deciding to take a break.
So good. Thank you for sharing all of that, Karin.
Yeah.
Okay, Francis, you know you're next.
All right. So for me, context leading up to taking a break is I was in the hospitality industry and running a small company here for some folks that actually didn't live here. So I basically was the person running the entire company. And I just was in a position where I was the doer of all things, and not only work, family-wise too, because I'm a single parent to a teenage daughter. And so I was the person that did all the things, you know, the job, the mom, got the house, got the degrees and the cars and all this stuff. But was just not fulfilled and didn't feel like I was doing any of that stuff for me. And so when the pandemic happened, I got a realization that, it's time for you to start thinking about yourself and doing stuff for yourself and the things that you want to do. And it kind of coincided with the fact that my daughter was getting ready to graduate from high school. So we're both starting new chapters, and it kind of all melded together and brought me to this point.
So excited for you, Frances. Thank you for sharing that. So, you guys all did such a wonderful job of kind of painting, setting the stage for deciding that you were like going to make something happen, right? Like why you were thinking and wanting to take a break. So, we all worked together at different points for 6 months, and I got to see so much of your journey in preparing for the break. And Stephen, actually, you started the break at the very end of the program. So you were one of the early birds that flew the nest before we even finished. But, I'm curious for you guys, what would you say? I mean, I have my own ideas, but what would be one of the biggest challenges that you faced in actually making this break happen, right? So it could be, challenges that you faced sort of before coming into my program, but it could also be what you faced in the program, right? So it might be the fear of reentry and not being able to find a job when you came back. It might be, sort of the stress of all the responsibilities that you have. How do you untangle yourself from that? It might be the fear of the unknown and just feeling like it was really scary to tell people, that I'm planning for a break and to not know what that meant. But I'm curious if you guys could just share quickly, like what you felt like your personal sort of like biggest challenge was going from I want to I'm actually on it. Cause all of you were on it. Like you made the leap, you made this happen. But what was the biggest tension point that you felt like you had in that journey? Can we start with Karin?
Yeah. So for me, I think I need to mention the fact that I really didn't think it was possible to take a break shortly before I met Katrina and realized that it was possible to take a break. And so it was, I think one of the things that you helped me do, Katrina, right away is start to look at my life right away, even though so there was this big break in front of me, but right now, let's look at your life and what doesn't sit right, what is not aligned with what you value and who you are. And so I remember that exercise that you had me do, which was just pick a day and evaluate your day and then send me write about it and send it to me. And that was eye-opening for me. I had this day that started really super early in the morning and ended really late, and I barely had time to eat, much less go to the bathroom. And I was experiencing health issues, and I realized that, oh wow, I need to make some changes. And then it was really the good old financial and healthcare. Like, okay, I need to take a break, but they're financially, how can I afford that? And I need to have healthcare. And so I think you were really good too, Katrina, at helping me to realize that I can just start making small changes, incremental changes, and I can be creative. And once I got into my creative brain, like financially, what I ended up doing was I had two options in front of me. One was to change apartment buildings. I was in a pretty expensive apartment, and I would be able to live in a nice apartment in the same building as my friend Lisa, which would have been nice, and save $1,000 a month. But financially, I was realizing that that wasn't going to set me up to take a break as soon as I wanted to. So the other idea was to move closer to home, move to closer to family, which is they had wanted me to for a while. And at first, that was just not really an option, but I thought about it and then ended up having a conversation with my parents. And what they agreed to do was really generous, and I'm so grateful. But they moved their furniture out of the bottom floor of their house. And I was able to move my furniture in and have my own private apartment, and then basically live rent free and then save money a lot faster. Yeah, so it worked out. It set me up logistically a lot for what was to come next. And then insurance, I found a solution to that, but I don't want to take up more time. So
yeah, no, that's so helpful, Karin. And I think, one of the special parts of your story is that, you went from this is impossible, not something I could do, to like, okay, I think I could do it, to, okay, I'm going to join a program to do it, to like, I don't think I want to move in like with my family, to I'm actually going to do it. But I'm so glad you did, because, as you alluded to in your intro, right? Your break started way before you anticipated.
Way before.
And I don't think you would have been able to make it the experience you needed it to be if you hadn't been saving as much money as you had been saving as early as you started.
Exactly. Totally true.
Yeah, I loved that for you. Thank you for sharing that, Karin. Okay, Frances, what was your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge was, the unknown at the end of the break. Well, what happens when the break is over? What am I going to do? How am I going to live? That was my biggest challenge. And I think where Katrina helped me the most was in reframing and looking at things not as, oh, I'm not going to have a job, but I may discover I want to do something else, and that I don't have to go back to doing what I have done all these years, or I possibly don't have to work at all, or work as long and as hard as I've been working all these years. So definitely the reframing is what helped me, and to the point where now that I plan to be on a break for at least a year, and I'm not even thinking about what I'm going to do next. It's like, I'm just going to go where I want to go, do what I want to do.
I love that so much, Frances. And I would say, I think one of your other challenges was actually planning so far in advance. You knew you wanted to take it. You had a vision, you were saving, but it's like, there was like health hiccup, and then the money, like, the money stuff was working out, but it was like the other things, and like the patience of staying at the job for so long when you knew you wanted to leave, right? I think that was one of the challenges
very
too.
hard for me, because I knew that this is something that I wanted to do and I was going to do, and I could literally taste it, but it was just so far out of reach. And I just, I had to have some patience, and I had to, kind of look at things a little differently. So yeah, you're right. That was another hard one for me.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, Stephen, are you ready to tell us about your biggest challenge? I have a guess as to what you're going to say, but I could be wrong.
We'll see. I have like a list of like 4 challenges. I have to narrow it down. So yeah, I mean, it's like +1 to all the sort of finances, healthcare, that kind of stuff. 100%. 2, I think the top challenges. 1 was like the career side of things, like really was very career oriented. And so thinking about like not climbing and just like not knowing what would happen afterward was one big thing. But I won't concentrate on that one. I think the other one, because I talked to another career breaker, and she had the same sort of like thing she was stuck on, is taking a career break with a partner. So I think that was for me, it was the challenge, specifically, figuring out whether or not my wife wanted to, also take a career break, try to convince her to be on board with either my plan or our plan, like unknown question mark, right? A lot of like, there's a lot of stress as well of like the sort of 50-50 responsibilities as a partner, and the obligations, particularly financially, like not being able to contribute. And so what does all that mean? So I would say, before even take the break, I had once like really dreamed of us taking a break together, doing like a 6-month honeymoon around the world. I have other friends who've done it, and I had always dreamed of doing something similar. Ultimately, I think through Take the Break, the program, my wife and I had a lot of forced discussions in order to, essentially do my introspective homework for the program. We had to take a good hard look at our budgets and what we really could afford. And I would say, like, for us, it was more than we thought. Looking at budgets, like what we didn't really have to cut so much. It was more just being realistic about what we could do, and the fact that we could make it work, if we needed to. And even had a 2-on-1 call with Katrina. So one of the monthly calls, I invited my wife on. Katrina, thank you for that. And that really led to the realization that taking a big break to travel long term was much more like my dream for us rather than like our dream. And then beyond that, like I haven't been doing long-term travel this entire time. It just, it became very clear that I needed a career break for mental health more than anything else. And my wife ultimately became really supportive of me taking a break. It's just really, really, I would say it turned a lot of things around. And so fast forward to last March, or just, this past March, when I started doing some independent consulting again, like my wife was sort of like confused, like me back into work mode, and was like, oh, I'm so used to you being on a break and like doing it, like the 50-50 thing was not a problem. Like, yes, I wasn't contributing financially in the same way, but I was doing a lot more like all the housework and cooking and all the things that she didn't necessarily like to do. So it kind of worked out. And now she's like, oh no, like, I don't want you to go back to work.
That's awesome, Stephen. Thank you for sharing that. And, I do remember like having, like helping you guys like tease that apart, because that was a big question. And you kind of like both went back and forth, because I think your wife also was like, well, I don't know. Right. There was a reason that maybe she did want to, and maybe she didn't. And so, that made sense as you were sharing it. I thought you were going to go the career route, but that one made a lot of sense when you were sharing it. So thank you for sharing all of that. Okay. Kristen, we haven't talked about yours yet, have we?
No, I think for me, probably the biggest challenge was my obligation to my parents. I not like in a real direct caregiving role, but my mom has some health challenges, and my dad's really your primary caregiver. So I just always really felt like, I was abandoning them. That felt really hard. But working with Katrina, like got to a spot where like, if I need to come back, I'll come back. And so that was kind of the biggest one. And then the second one was like being a teacher. You kind of like grow your program. I'm a language teacher, so it's not it's something that you see the students in level 1, and you want to see them in level 2 and whatever. But I ended up deciding kind of in the end that I was willing to like let it go, and willing to make room for something new. Because that I think that there's something pretty amazing that could come on the other side of this, and being willing to like let it go, so that was a big fear of mine too. That's why I really wanted to do more of a 6-month break kind of thing, is what I was thinking.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Kristen, I have to say, I was very proud of you as we went through just being open. And I know that there was a time where we like kind of went in circles on like what you could do with that time, right? And you weren't quite sure how you wanted to spend it, but ultimately I feel like you got clear, and then you were brave enough to say, not 6 months, I think I'm going to go for 12 months, which is super fantastic. So thank you for sharing all of that. Kim, did we do you? I don't think we did you.
Nope. I think I'm the last one. It's funny. I think my fears weren't like around the budget, since I said I was already like working towards that. And it wasn't even about quitting my job. I think mine were like really internal. Like I'm afraid to leave my safe bubble, my family and friends, and afraid to solo travel. Like I love traveling, but had never done solo traveling or long-term traveling. So just a lot of fears around like, how my life would look so different, and just being uncertain about it. And obviously I haven't started that yet, so it's still there, but just like I built so much confidence around that, like I can deal with this uncertainty and it like will work out well, and just being flexible. So yeah, my fears were definitely just like internal. How will I be on this break?
Yeah, I think one of the fun things about watching your journey, Kim, is that, like you said, you'd been saving for it. You kind of had ideas of what you might do. And it was like, really, you were the only obstacle, right? Because you were like, you couldn't, like, it was so clear you could do it. And you were like, I still don't know if I'm going to do it. It doesn't seem real. I don't know. Like, am I really doing this? And I remember when we picked your day, like we picked the day that you were going to give your notice and sort of like move back from there. So it was really exciting for me to get the message that you had your final day in the office and it's real. Like, welcome to your break.
Yeah, that was exactly it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a perfect segue. I would like to talk about the good parts too. So Could you guys just share with us, for Stephen, you've been on your break for a while, so maybe you could share a couple highlights from your actual experience. And then for those of you that just started, kind of just sharing what those sort of first few days, weeks, that first month is like, just to give us like a snapshot of life during a break. But Stephen, I'm going to let you go first because I know you got some stuff to share.
I also revisited my themes while we were talking here, and it included like sort of rest, recharge, reconnect, explore, and upskill. So like learning, and so I've kind of been able to do a lot of those things. I spent, the first thing I did was spend 2 weeks in Mexico City learning Spanish. It was the first time I'd decided to learn French when I was younger, so I'd always wanted to learn Spanish. So that was my first time. And after that 2-week trial, I was like, oh, I'm kind of into this. Spent another 2 weeks road tripping around the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, and then spent a month living in Guatemala, learning Spanish and living with a Guatemalan homestay family, which was amazing. Went on a couple of vacations with my wife as well to Hawaii and Spain, went to the UK. It's been, also like caught COVID twice and had to like cancel flights. So like things did not all go well on the break. I will say that as well. I had to cancel some plans. But yeah, that's what I've done. I had mentioned at the beginning as well that I was doing some independent consulting, and then now I'm in this like public policy fellowship, 10 weeks full time. It's paid, which is really amazing, and it's helping me to do a little bit of a career pivot. It's made for mid-career folks, so it's really like amazing that I can just take this 10 weeks to do this. I think if I was working, it would be really hard. And so, this is like my upskilling. And now I'm feeling really energized. Did I answer your question?
You totally did. Great job. And I want to add, Stephen, you talked about the Spanish that sort of evolved, right? Like it wasn't necessarily the plan you had, but as you started doing it, you were enjoying it. And so can you share a little bit about how that led to an opportunity for you?
Oh yeah, like I skipped over a whole thing. As you had said, I think like I was like loosely interested in pursuing this Spanish thing, and then I really got into it and decided to go to Guatemala to study essentially like 5 hours a day for a month. Reached a decent level. I wouldn't call myself fluent by any means, but essentially last February. So the reason why I started independent consulting was in February, my former employer, I would say like 2 teams ago, actually reached out to me saying like, hey, I heard that you've been learning Spanish during your career break. We have like a 3-month project that we need help on in Puerto Rico, and think you would be a great fit for that. After having confirmed that I didn't need to be 100% fluent, but that Spanglish would do, I decided to go for it. Having been off for 7 months at that point. And I didn't mention, but originally when I took my career break, I said I would be off for like 3 to 6 months. It was like kind of a loose plan. So I was like, I could probably use the money and test the waters and whatnot. So yeah, it did lead to that opportunity that wouldn't have come otherwise. Like that team existed back when I was at the company, but I would have never considered working with the Puerto Rico team. So that was pretty cool.
Yes. And I think one of the coolest things is it really highlights this idea that, pre-break the version that's still like feeling, maybe a little burned out, a little, like searching for this break and trying to create it, can't decide and know all the things that are waiting for you in this experience. Like you are going to evolve and grow as you did, and have interests that you pursue and passions that you cultivate through this experience. And so I think it's a beautiful example of, we could have never planned this, right? Back in the program, we would have never known that this was waiting for you, but you were just truly being authentic in like, oh, I enjoyed this and I'm going to do it again. And then I'm going to do it in Guatemala. And then, and it became a thing that created and opened doors for opportunities. And so I think so often it's scary to take a break because we can't see the full picture on the other side. But, Stephen, you're a great example of like, we have to take that walk. We have to start walking that path before we can see what's on the horizon. We have to get closer, right? We have to actually like just show up for what we want and what is true. And it sort of keeps unfolding in front of us. So I was very excited for you when you had that opportunity.
Thanks.
Very cool. Okay. So next let's go to Kim. So Kim, your break just started. A, can you tell us how it feels? Like, is it surreal? I don't know, to be on a break. And then B, tell us something you're looking forward to doing on your break.
Yeah, it still feels surreal or like vacation because I've only been off for a week and a half. So, but it feels amazing, like Sunday night to not be worried about going to work while all my friends are, but I'm still like in Philadelphia surrounded by friends. So a lot of, you know, catching up with people before I leave. And I'm looking forward to, I just booked my flight I was like, I'm going to go to Portugal. That's where I'm going to start. And I happen to find a really cheap flight that goes through the Azores. And so I was like, why not just, do some whale watching? Like, I didn't think that's how I'd start my trip. So I'm excited about that.
Awesome. That sounds great. Okay, Kristen, you teased us a little with what you've got coming, but maybe some people that joined a little into it didn't hear it. But okay, so tell us, how does it feel to be on a break? And then give us some highlights that you're looking forward to.
Well, right now I'm like pretty stressed. And so many, you go through all these emotions. Like when I left school at the end of the school year, I mean, I was so ready to be done. We had such a horrible school year. We went on strike. The district made us go 2 extra weeks to make up the time. So I was just really kind of felt ready. But then this part of the thing, packing up your apartment, I said to myself, why does anyone ever move? But I know once I get past this part, it'll be really great. I've been training for a 9-day walking pilgrimage in Ireland. And so I'm really excited to like meet these people that are going to be on it. It sounds really, really neat. And then, yeah, I'm going to be studying. I'm living with a 74-year-old woman in her place. My rent is going to be 330 euros, which is apparently dollars now a month because of the parity that just came out, which is like a fourth of my rent now, maybe a fifth, So like, I mean, it just like, wow. And like being a student, like there's like other advantages, you get to use the gym, you get to eat in the cafeteria for like $3.50, like a really good meal. So I'm excited to go back and do this at 39, see what it's like.
I'm excited for you, Kristen. And I think, what was interesting in our time together is, you're really clear and you're very excited about your plan, but it took a while, right, to develop the plan. And it was like, will I be a student? What would that look like? Where will I go to school? And you did a lot of research, right, into possible programs in France and other French speaking nations to figure out how you were going to make it work. But in the end, you figured it out. And it's so fantastic. And like you said, I find every single time, when you plan and you show up with this intention, somehow the universe meets you halfway. And for you, that looks like having parity with the euro so that,
right?
Like your trip is suddenly gotten a lot cheaper, right?
Totally.
Yeah. I'm excited for you. Awesome. Okay. Francis, please tell us how it feels to be on a break now that you're finally on a break, and then give us some highlights that you're looking forward to.
Okay. Well, it's funny because today I had to go back to my old job to drop some stuff off, and everyone that saw me was like, oh wow, you look so refreshed and like you look brand new, and it's like, this is really agreeing with you. And I was like, yeah, it really is. But it feels really good. Like Kristen, I'm dealing with the same thing she's dealing with boxes all over my house, trying to pack it all up and get it ready to get on a plane in a couple of days. But basically the plan is to plan as little as possible, and that the only real concrete plans I have is probably for the next month, and that is we go to Atlanta or to Georgia on Saturday to drop off our dog at my sister's house, because she's going to keep the dog while we're traipsing about. And my daughter is going to visit a college that she's interested in. And so we'll be there for 2 weeks. And then at the end of those 2 weeks, we go to Mexico City. And we're there for, I don't know, a month maybe. I'm not sure yet. And after that, who knows? We have a list of places that we'd like to go. So we'll just see.
I love this so much. And Francis, you admitted, I think in a community call that we did, that you used to be a real planner, right? That like, that this would need to be all buttoned up for you to feel good about it.
Yes, that is definitely me. Or was. But now it's like, no, I'm not doing that. No concrete plans.
Yeah, you get to go with the flow. I'm so
Yeah,
excited.
yeah.
All right. Thank you, Francis. Karen, tell us. Tell us
Well,
how it feels.
what
And I mean, yeah, you've gotten a lot. You've been on a break for a while doing a lot of things,
Yeah.
Karen. Tell us about.
Yes. Okay. So as I said before, my break started, it was planned, I was planning to start my break in August of 2022. So it would be next month, because I knew in my head that I needed to take a really long break and I wanted to have time to save up enough money for that. Because I knew that a big part of my break would be healing. I would need to set aside some time for that. And it started instead in mid-November of this last year, when in the middle of a streak of forced like nights and weekends, my body crashed. And so I ended up going on a medical leave. And that, I didn't know it at the time, but that was really the start of my break. It ended up being a 6-month medical leave. And at the very end of that, my doctor, and first of all, I should mention, Katrina, that in the course of working with you, I found a new doctor who is the one who helped me come up with my diagnosis, which is allowing me to become healed now. So I found out towards the end of the 6-month medical leave that I have Lyme disease. And so it explains all of these weird symptoms, doctor saying either there's nothing wrong with you or I don't know what's wrong with you. And so because I worked with you and I had already fully planned a break, now I hadn't saved as much as I thought I would, but I had still saved a lot. I was able to make the decision at the end of 6 months that I'm not going to go back to work. Because I knew that if I go back, I'm gonna have to work the overtime again. And it's just like I needed to get out of that kind of hustle work environment, so that I could heal. And I was finally going to put my health first and take my life back, which is part of my take the break purpose. So so this has allowed me to really focus on my health, which has felt good. There are parts of this that have been hard, but again, I've had time to focus on it. I also, despite having health issues and dealing with this, I feel so much better on the inside. Like I just feel so much more me. I'm finding more of me that I lost along the way. I recently actually started studying in a functional nutrition program because functional medicine is what has really helped me. And I decided in 8 years with chronic illness and most of the time having doctors tell me there's nothing wrong or not knowing what to do with me, that I needed to take some authority, and I wanted to know more. So I'm really loving the studies, my studies, and I'm finding some passion in this. Yeah, that's part of it. And then just connecting with family and friends. I'm living in the bottom floor of my parents' house, but I didn't tell you before, it's actually on a lake. I've got a lake through the window there. And so I'm able to really relax, go on walks. The really nice thing is not being tied to all these like meeting after meeting after meeting, which was my day before, where it's just like you can't even breathe. I'm not tied to my computer. I am studying, but but I can make my own schedule really, and there's more of a flow to my day. So I just have so much more hope now than I ever did before, and it's scary to think that I was in this hamster wheel and I didn't think that I could get out. And it's also scary to think what would have happened if I hadn't started planning this break and I hadn't decided that I needed to save money faster and move home. And yeah, anyway, scary to think, what if I didn't plan for this break and what if I didn't take a break?
Yeah. I'm so glad that you did. I got goosebumps while you were sharing all that, Karin, but I also really appreciated, I think, how fully you showed up for yourself and did all, the homework and everything to create that shift before, because I remember you actually had a first job when we started, like, and you got a job offer, like right after I think we decided to start working together and you were joining the program and you're like, oh, can I switch jobs? Like, I know I will only be there for like a year and could I leave? And it's like, the first job was like really toxic, like work,
it was
like just
really toxic.
You were eating lunch in your car or something. I don't know, or dinner in your car. I don't know. It was like really
hardcore.
It
was. I think I ate like dry cereal and a banana throughout the day as I could, and then ate dinner in my car. And like, it was pretty bad. Tell me again what you were,
No, so I'm just saying, like, reflecting on where you started with that, right? To be a person now that feels hopeful and takes your health so seriously that you're able to say, no, I'm not coming back after those 6 months. I mean, it's just such a huge transformation, to watch you really bloom and be able to like care for yourself.
And what I remembered what I wanted to say, like I had said earlier that I didn't want to get another job because I didn't think I had the energy for that. But as soon as I started working with Katrina and started realizing that I really do need to make some changes and I can make changes. And so I just ended up applying for this job and I got a new job that was better, but ultimately not right for me either. And it paid more and it paid for overtime. So I didn't think that was possible either, but I was able to make that change. And it was also in the city that I moved to. So much better.
So fantastic. Oh my gosh, you guys. Well, I want to leave time for some Q&A. So I'm going to end this section on one sort of two-part question, and I'm going to try to get for each of you, but investing in yourselves, right? So saving money is an important part of your break, right? You guys have all gone through this experience and had to do it. And so when you think about, the choice of putting more money towards your break or actually investing in getting support and having coaching for this and really like developing a plan with someone, that can be a really tough decision. So I'm curious to know, what your biggest hesitation was, if it was the investment or some other piece of it. And kind of on the other side of this experience, what was the like best takeaway for you, or sort of like what you feel like you walked away with from this experience that sort of made it all worthwhile? Okay, I'm going to just start calling names. Steven, yay. Would you like to tell us? I know you love it when I call on you.
I feel like it's not it's not the first time you've called on me first. So is this like sort of question around like assessing whether or not to do the program, or?
Well, I mean, so sort of, but it's like more personal to you. So thinking about, in your experience, obviously it was a big decision. I remember we had like a conversation and then we had like, I think maybe like a exchange or email or something, but it was like a big decision. And I know, that it can be hard to say yes to working with someone to plan a break. It's scary. So I'm just curious what your biggest hesitation was, if it was, in the investment, if it was something else, and sort of, now that you've gone through it, said yes, move through the program, sort of what you're walking away with.
Yeah, I mean, the investment was certainly a part of it. Like, I would be lying if I didn't say that. I mean, I've been spoiled, I think, in previous, like in jobs that I've had, I've been able to get some like education money from work, like tuition assistance and stuff like that. It's like, you can't really ask your employer to pay for a career break coach because you're planning to leave within 6 months or so. So, with that, like I had to think about the cost. I will say, having like, I didn't shop around intensely, but I looked at, other options, different career coaches. I wanted to make sure there was a good fit. And Katrina, I mean, I will say like your program is, from an investment standpoint, really good value for money, right? Like there was like the perfect balance between kind of the homework that we do and then lots of emails back and forth, but access to you via Polo. I don't know if you're still doing that, right? Like, so it's like a video voicemail app, which is great. And being a part of a cohort and, having monthly calls and stuff like that, it just felt like the perfect balance in terms of like touch point, like number of touch points with coach, and then like what you're paying for and getting something out of that. And I mean, for me, it was super valuable because I was just so afraid to quit. Like I knew deep down inside that I needed to do it. I think probably like aside from the investment, just like deciding to do the take the break program itself is already acknowledging that like, I guess I'm gonna quit at some point, like, which is scary. And even throughout the program, I didn't know how or when I was gonna put in my notice. But yeah, I think it was like by June, like just one day I decided like, it's time, and I need to do it. And I would not have had the courage to do so without the whole like process of like going through the program. So yeah, thank you for that.
You're so welcome. Thank you for that, Stephen. I feel like that was a gift. I received that. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, Kristen, can you share with us?
Yeah, like I think for me, like saying yes to the program was like, it meant like you really had to do it. Like you really had to take the break, and you don't really have to, but I mean, for me, it was like, I wasn't going to waste the time or the money and not take the break. So I think that's what made that a little bit, you know, like made it seem more real. And I'm really glad I had your support. Like Katrina and I actually used to work together at one of my old corporate jobs. And I took a 3-month sabbatical then, but I think I wouldn't have, I think I could have done this on my own, but I don't think I would have been as confident. Like, because you're going to get a lot of messages from people. Like, you know, my one aunt saw me at dinner the other day, and she just was asking all these questions about, you know, the classes I'm taking in France. Is that going to help me move up the teacher scale to make more money as a teacher? Like, is that the reason I'm doing this? And it's like, nope, they're not going to count for that. And nope, that's not the reason I'm doing this. Like, so like, I think I was able to like have more of a strong stance and be clear and feel more confident about doing it than if I would have, you know, done this on my own.
Thank you, Kristen. I'm so glad that you did. Let's go to Karin. Hi, Karin. What's your answer?
Hello. Can you remind me exactly what the
of
question
course.
was?
Yeah. What was your biggest hesitation in joining the program? And then sort of what is your sort of biggest takeaway or the best thing that you sort of walked away with after?
You know, once I read your story, Katrina, and I had decided I needed to take a break, I had no hesitation whatsoever joining the program. I just knew that's what I needed. Things became clear when they weren't clear before. It was just like, okay, that is where I'm going. And I would say the biggest thing, the most valuable thing, there's so many things, but it was just realizing that I'm way more empowered than I thought I was. You helped me realize that. It's just a matter of like remembering what are your values and what do you need in life, and making changes, just starting to make changes, and they can be small changes. And it's amazing how when you start making changes, it becomes easier and easier. You just, okay, and then the next step becomes clear, and then you do that. And I would say the program, one of the things there were so many great things about the program, but I think, Katrina, you really made it fun. We spent 6 months of planning, but you really broke it up into bite-sized chunks. We got like an assignment every week, and it was fun. And so I didn't really feel like I was working to plan it. And so just that, like by the end of 6 months, I had planned a break, and I didn't feel like I really labored to do it. And in the process, really rediscovered who I am, what are my values, what do I want out of life, and decided that I could go for it. Whereas I didn't think that I could before. I felt like I'm an adult, I'm responsible, I've got, you know, it's expensive to live, I gotta have this job so I can survive. And that wasn't true.
Oh my gosh, you guys, these answers are so great. I'm so glad I'm recording this. I'm just on my hard days. I'm just gonna rewatch this video and be like, look at all the difference we're making. No, thank you for sharing that, Karin. That really means a lot. And I love that it was fun. That's actually one of my values. So that means a lot to me. So thank you. Frances, what was your hesitation, Frances? And what is your biggest sort of like most impactful takeaway?
I think my biggest hesitation was the timing. I don't know if you remember, Katrina, because I went back and forth about, am I going to start in January or am I going to wait until the next one? So I kind of went back and forth about the timing. But I will say that for me, once I had decided that, you know, it was time for me to start doing stuff for myself and doing the stuff that I wanted to do. It was pretty easy for me to be on board and to say that I wanted to work with you. And similar to what I believe, I'm not sure if it's Kristen or Karin, but one of you said, you know, you probably could have done it yourself, but doing it with you definitely was confidence boosting. And allowing myself to understand that, yeah, I can definitely do this and it's okay. And, doesn't matter what the naysayers say and all the questions and all of this and all of that, but you can do it. And there were times when I wanted to pull my hair out because I just wanted to go. But Katrina always was there. I could call her up, I could pull her, I could whatever. So it's definitely value for the money. And if you're investing in yourself, this is a great way to do it.
Thank you, Frances. I love that. Okay, Kim, are you ready to tell us about your biggest hesitation and what your most impactful takeaway was to wrap us up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I didn't have too much hesitation because you offered a few sessions before I take the break. And I found so much value out of those. Like we even came up with with my purpose during that time that continued to be mine. And like, I just realized, wow, already like I've seen so much change and brought more excitement into like thinking about my break when I'd been stuck. So like, it was a pretty easy decision once I had like worked with you and seen what you do. And I would say the program, just the fact that it is like a program and not just coaching sessions, and that you're like doing homework every week, and like Karin said, it's fun, but like I needed that accountability to like slowly chip away at the planning and getting more confident week over week, and also just like the community of getting to hear Katrina's stories, other clients she's helped, and then like the people in your cohort. Like it just made it feel more real. Like I'm not alone in this dream, and like we're all going to make it happen. So yes, the program was totally worth it.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So I wanted to tell you guys a tiny bit about the program, but I see Nick Devlin has his hand raised, and I know Nick, so I feel like he might beat me up if I don't let him go with his burning question.
No,
Just
I
kidding.
would
Nick is
never.
not violent at all.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for sharing this. It sounds really transformative, and as someone who is considering a version of a break, I'm really curious, like, how do you feel like your life is forever changed? And like, maybe that's in terms of who you feel like you've become, and like, you're now on this kind of new trajectory, or just your life in general. How do you think it's, because I like Katrina said, like, I'm on this end of it, you guys are on that end of it, even you guys who have just started, like, I imagine there's some kind of shift.
That's a great question, Nick. Thanks for asking that. And by the way, I think Mike has also dropped questions, so we'll get to those, Mike, too. But yeah, does anybody want to drop in with an answer for Nick?
I can go.
Okay.
I think Frances kind of mentioned this earlier, like being a planner, I'm also like that. And I would have thought that I needed to have everything planned out, and just having the confidence of like things are going to work out and being flexible. Like you just need to like start down the path. And like, I don't know how my break's going to end or life in that fact, but just like being confident that, I know what I'm doing a month from now, and I'm enjoying this, and I'll reevaluate then, and just having that reframe of how to live my life has been transformative.
Oh, thank you for sharing that, Kim.
And I think, we all know that, this is a pretty big deal and like pretty countercultural, right? Like for us to kind of step off the career wheel for a while. And so it's like, you already know, like so much change is kind of already happened and will continue to happen, I think. And especially post COVID, like we're not even really post it. It's just like, I think I'll just never view my life the same way. Like, like time is actually the most precious asset we have, you know, versus money. And so I don't know, I just don't think I'll ever view time the same way, like what I'd be willing to put up with, you know, like we kind of all grit our teeth, you know, we've all talked about that through tougher situations. And I don't know how much willing I am to grit my teeth for something that's just kind of stupid, right?
Okay, I'm crying over here. Like that was so good, Kristen. I'm glad that that's your takeaway. Like, I'm glad that that is your reality. I'm so happy to hear that. Would anybody else like to share?
I will.
Happy to.
Yeah,
Karin,
so sorry, I'll go quick. I would just say that I am living life from my heart now. I at some point had disconnected from my heart, and I was just living the practical way, living without even really thinking about it. And it, like, I realize that more and more, the more I get away from the life that I was living before. My relationships are better. My relationship with myself is better. I have a different vision for my life now that is way more in line with my real values, versus just surviving before, really is what I was doing. I mean, I was successful from like a distance. I was successful in the world's view, but I really wasn't. So like Kristen said, I won't view life and time the same way anymore.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Did I hear Steve?
I've been answering like twist Nick's question a little bit, because I think you asked how we've been like forever changed, and forever is kind of a long time. So I can only talk about how I feel now compared to how I was before. And I can just say that I'm in just like a much better mental space. I think the best way to describe it is a year ago, I was like really burnt out from work. I was feeling the imposter syndrome that I had mentioned earlier. And even if I wasn't looking to do a career break and I was just looking to change jobs, I think Karin, you had mentioned like, I didn't have the headspace to apply. I didn't, and I don't think I would have been in the right mindset to perform either in interviews. Like it just wasn't where I was. And by contrast now, I think like the job hunt for me is, I view it as a world of opportunities and possibilities. And that's just a huge like 180 degree difference.
Thank you, Stephen.
I think for me, and I'm probably of everybody here, and well, from people that have been take the breakers, I'm probably the oldest of the bunch. But for me, it means to me that I am not, whenever the break ends, I have no intention of going back to the life that I had. And so, you know, I talked about doing things that I want to do and the things for myself. And that's going to be my focus. What I enjoy, what I want to learn, what the things that I want to do, how I want to live the next chapter or chapters, as opposed to the things you're supposed to do.
Ooh, guys, all those answers were really beautiful. I really appreciate you. And I'm so glad that you all are walking away with that much change. So we have lots of questions coming in. So I want to move to them. So Carrie dropped one and Natasha has her hand raised. So let's do Carrie's, and then we're going to ask Natasha what her question is. But Carrie dropped a question about, did any of you experience a person or people who were negative about your break, about you embarking on it, and how did you overcome it? So can we get maybe 2 people to answer that? Did any of you encounter some naysayers? And if so, how did you overcome that?
I could like expand on what I wrote a little bit. I mean, Katrina's point of view, like you've always been like, you know, you're sharing your news and people are just curious sometimes. And so maybe their questions, like they might come off as kind of negative, but it isn't really them being negative. Like for example, when I handed in I'm on a leave, but I don't know if I'm coming back really, but when I gave my leave notice, I was so nervous and I had to do it in like pretty early, like in January. And I had a lovely conversation with my supervisor. I was like, oh my goodness, I couldn't believe it. So there'll be surprises like that. But I mean, a lot of this, I mean, this was the support that I needed from Katrina. That was like probably the biggest part, was like talking about my internal feelings, what I was worried about, and then how to handle, you know, what was coming at me. And even just tonight, you know, talking to my mom, you know, she had tears in her eyes and said, "So be okay, Mom, I'm going to be back in December for Christmas," you know. So that's how I did it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Kristen. And I would just add to that, you know, there comes a point in your life where you have to decide whose voice matters most. And I think, you know, that's the work that we did. And I've done it, you know, with some of you as well on the panel and other clients in the past, but it's really recalibrating to decide. Like, people get to be upset. They get to not understand. If it's your vision for your life, no one else is going to understand it until you do it. And that's not their responsibility. Now, definitely people can be a real drag about things, you know, and they can make it more challenging. But at some point, right, we have to, you know, recalibrate, like Karin said, right, go back to center, back to your heart, because all these choices are coming with a sacrifice. Are you sacrificing other people being dissatisfied, or are you sacrificing living a life that makes you happy and feels like fulfillment, right? So there does come that moment where, you know, that's the real lean in, is just being able to let go of that. But it's a process. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you for sharing for Kristen. Okay. So I know Mike dropped 2 questions, but let's do Natasha with her hand raised, and then let's go to Mike's 2 questions. Yeah. So Natasha, what's your question?
Okay. So I don't know if this is a bit of a strange question, but did anybody, I'm kind of wondering if anybody felt nervous about their ability to be content upon reentry. Just because I guess that's sort of a concern, is something that I grapple with. Like, you know, I had all these grand ideas for my life and what I want to do with it. Life took a bit of a different path early on. I settled down fairly young, had a family. And so now I'm like, oh, great, like career break. This is awesome. I have all these plans, and I'm really, really nervous about, oh shoot, like when it's over, am I going to be content settling back down into the life I have built for myself? And, you know, obviously my situation, I think, is a little bit different from what it sounds like from some people on the call. I mean, I do have a husband, I do have 3 young children. So as much as I want to be like a wanderer, there's always going to be, you know, I'm always going to have some stability and some roots. So yeah, I guess I'm just nervous that once I open Pandora's box, like I can't really shove all that stuff back in there.
Okay, so I'm going to that's a great question, Natasha. I'm going to let a panelist jump in if they'd like to, but I have my own answer to this question too. I'm just burning up to say, but you know, I think reframed, this question is, can I live a really amazing, brilliant life? Can I do that because I'm scared that then I won't want to settle for less than that? And I would say, is that even really a question, right? Because I live in a world, in a reality where you don't have to settle. And so I'm willing to bet, Natasha, because I know a little bit about you, that you're going to step into this brilliant, amazing life, and you're going to decide in your full power that you're done, like settling for anything less than that. And so some version of what comes next for you will have to be just as brilliant, maybe in a different way, right? Like, you know, people do come back, and sometimes, you know, like for me, paying off debt was actually what I did after my first career break. And so I found a job that was really exciting, but it was still a corporate job. So it wasn't my dream life, but it was a dream job, right? And so, you know, when you get clear on what your next right step is and what the most important thing is once your break is over, you'll find whatever version of that is. But you know, it's like you said, you're opening a Pandora's box of awesome, right? It's not like where all the bad stuff comes and all you're left with is hope. It's like a Pandora's box of awesome. And it's like, what if I can't settle for just mediocrity anymore? And I'm like, yeah, what if you can't settle for mediocrity anymore? Wouldn't that be amazing when your creativity and your perseverance, your restoration and your inspiration refuse to go back in the box, and they insist on being a part of all the decisions that you make? But I want to open it not just to me, but to any panelist. Do any panelists have anything they wanted to add to that before we move on?
say something. So I would just say that I understand. And I think that once you get on the trajectory, kind of like Katrina said, you're just going to start making little changes. And just there's something amazing about living from your heart, like allowing yourself to indulge in what's something little that would really be really meaningful for me. And I think by the time if you were to take a break, by the time you got to the end of the break, you would just be living life a different way. And so the old life wouldn't exist anymore. It would just be, you would be different on the inside, and the way you go about life would be different. That's what I think, because here I am. I had imagined doing traveling and all of that as part of my break. And I think I'm still going to do that in the future, but that's not how my break started. But I still have gone through so much transformation in a medical leave, because I'm living differently on the inside.
And I think another thing for Natasha to think about is think about how your family will benefit from improved you and the improvements that you'll get after your break or while you're on your break or when you're ready to come back for your break, because you're not going to be the same person, be a better version of yourself. And that's a benefit not only for you, but for your family.
So good, ladies. Thank you for that. Yeah, I appreciate that. So let's go back to Mike's questions. So the sort of second question that he asked was if anybody has experience going back to the same company or position. So I know that all of you are on a break now. And Stephen, you like the contract work that you took, that's with your old company. Is that true?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. What's the main question?
Yeah, the main question. So Mike was saying that he's on a bit of a sabbatical, a mental health sabbatical, and he's nervous about going back to work and how it will be perceived. And so does anybody have experience going back to the same company? I'm guessing the implication there just being like, how was that experience? You know, how did people react to it and such?
Yeah, for me, I can say generally it was positive. I mean, there was some subset of people who probably didn't realize that I was ever gone. It just sort of, you slot right back in seamlessly. They were like, oh, time just flew. For me, 7 months had passed by. And for them, they're like, oh, well, so some people didn't really even realize I was gone for that long. People I did work with very closely. But people are generally supportive. I also would highlight, outside of the perception from others, even just from myself, my approach to work was very different going back. I think it was actually helpful that my first consulting gig was back with a former employer, because I knew the system, I knew the culture and sort of kind of what to avoid as well. I knew what old me, how I could fall into bad traps. And I think having had some distance away from that, and yet also knowing what to look out for, that actually worked out really well for me in the sense that I was able to set up really nice boundaries that I probably couldn't before. So that's my experience. Anyway, I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Stephen. And I have something to add. So, I've coached people through 51 career breaks, which is crazy. And so in that, there have been several people that have left and gone back to their company, and maybe their role slightly changed, but they've gone back to the company. And so this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to get on my soapbox here for a second. You create this experience, right? You have the courage to stand up and give yourself what you need. If you're thoughtfully curating your experiences or thinking about what success means to you. So everyone on this panel, right, went through the process of creating a purpose that really grounded them in their why, but also themes, the four themes of what this break is going to be about and what they need for it to feel successful. And so if you give yourself that clarity up front and you live into that during your break, when you come back, you are restored. You are inspired, right? You are fulfilled. And everyone here is saying, in different ways, you are a changed human being. And so what they're going to recognize is that change in you, and they're going to have a lot of questions. So in what I've seen, from the people that have gone back to the same company, it's so much more about curiosity, genuine curiosity. And if you're not feeling self-conscious about it, you can receive it so much more graciously, because you're like, oh, they're just curious because they don't know people that have done this and they want to know what the experience was like and what I took away from it and how I'm different. And they just sort of notice things are different, but they're not sure why. And so you can invite people in. So I've actually found coming back from a break to be a point of connection for anyone that was really thoughtful about the experience that they were creating during the break, right? So it wasn't like coming back like, oh God, I hope no one asked me about this. I'm so embarrassed. And like, I feel really uncomfortable. It's like, come ask me about my break. This is the most amazing thing I did. Even if part of it is like Karin, like healing, it's like she's learning stuff and she's learning things that are going to help other people. And she's gotten, like created new interests for herself and things she's studying, right? We're all interesting humans. And so, I would say that so much of it is about the energy you come back with and the thoughts that you carry back with you, whether it's at that company or a different company. And so, like it doesn't have to be a thing if you decide it's not a thing. And people will actually gravitate to you and be curious and want to ask questions about your experience when you've returned from that break. So I'm off my soapbox now. Yeah. So if we have more questions, you can drop them, you can raise your hand, you can pipe up. But, I wanted to tell you guys tonight is the big night. So, we've been talking about Take the Break. All 5 of our amazing panelists here have been through this program. It's a 6-month program. And I put it on hiatus for a year because I wanted to really take time to incorporate all of the amazing feedback I've received after running it for 3 rounds and make it even better. And so I'm relaunching it officially tonight. And I would love to talk to you about it. So, my takeaway for you and sort of the next step is to schedule. I've cleared off my calendar for this week. So I would love if you're interested and you want to know more and you're curious if it could be a fit for you. If you're thinking this might be something that you're interested in, or you feel like something that a panelist had resonated with you and you want to dive into more about the program, schedule a call with me. It's 30 minutes. No obligation, obviously, but I would love to connect with you and figure out, how I can help you. And if this program is it, I'm going to tell you all the amazing reasons why I think that. But I would love to have a conversation. So I'm going to drop a link while we're doing more questions in the chat to schedule a call, but I'll also be following up. So stay tuned. You'll get an email with a link to the replay, and it will have a link to schedule a call with me as well. But also there's an early bird discount that's $500 that is starting too. So definitely get your call scheduled so you can take advantage of that. Some of the panelists took advantage of that, so I'm sure that they were glad they did. So that's like sort of my thank you to all of you for being here. But yeah, and there's also going to be a scholarship. There's going to be one $1,000 scholarship. And so if you want to apply, let me know. I can send you a link to that application. If we get on a call, I will gladly provide you with a link as well. So anyway, yeah, let's get on a call and let's chat and let's talk about your career break dream and the reasons that it feels like you're not sure if it's going to happen or where you feel stuck, and figure out what we can do about it. I would really love to support you. So with that, I will go get the link and drop it in the chat. But in the meantime, are there any other questions that anybody had, or something you wanted to ask one of the panelists in general, or just some burning question that you wanted answered?
I'm curious if anyone has just an outstanding peak experience, maybe somewhere they visited, or just an experience that you had that was like, oh my God, never would have had that, or what, always wanted to do that, or something like that.
I think that's going to be on Stephen because everybody else just kind of started. Although Karin, you've done some stuff. Like, I feel like, you haven't traveled as much as you want, but I'm willing to bet that there have been some cool moments in your break as well. So Stephen or Karin, either one. Oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
There you
Sorry.
go. That Kim, I don't think I can beat that.
Yeah.
In the
Haven't
chat.
done it yet.
Yeah, I mean, I had mentioned it already previously, but I think one of the highlights was just being able to live in Guatemala for a month and learn Spanish and just pursue a lifelong goal. And I think I need to get back into Spanish learning, actually. So that's a good reminder to self. During that time, I did 2 backpacking trips as well, up 2 different volcanoes. One was Tajumulco, is like the highest volcano or highest mountain in Central America. And I was wholly unprepared for that experience. I don't really normally go backpacking anyway. I do a lot of hiking, but apparently, from New York, it's all from sea level. So I didn't it did not calculate that like backpacking hard, and then like going up to like 4,000 meters also hard. Never like felt so out of breath in my life. Survived it, and like then felt like really strong afterward. I'm like, yes, I did this. So it was one of the unique experiences for me.
I love that, Stephen. And for those who can't read it in the chat or don't see in the chat, Kim wrote that she's planning to watch the World Cup from Argentina in December, which, yeah, that sounds pretty fantastic. Sounds pretty fantastic, Kim. I like this plan. Before we wrap on this question, Karin, did you have anything you want to add? Like, what's a highlight for you?
So I think one of the things that's been really nice is just the ability that I am flexible. And so my sister and family were taking a trip to Big White this winter, and I was able to go with them. And that was pretty amazing. One of the things that I still plan to do in the future is maybe not the ice hotel, but I had the ice hotel in mind, but go somewhere cool to see the Northern Lights. I thought that would be really fun. And it would be wintry wherever it was. And so I just imagined all sorts of outdoor, like snowshoeing and cross-country skiing and what have you. So
I love that. That's awesome. Yay. And Stephen says that being on this call is bad for his reentry, and that he's thinking maybe
he's got more to do.
Some more, yeah. Some unmet travel dreams.
Yeah.
Well, you can always continue, Stephen. I'm sure the list is never ending. I felt the same way. Well, if there aren't any more questions, I want to thank the panelists so much for their time to come on here and share, their experience, their hard moments, their amazing moments in planning for this break and making it happen. But also I want to thank everybody that joined live. I'm so grateful that you guys showed up and asked great questions and made this fun for all of us. This is really meaningful, and it's a joy for me to reflect on how different, right? Like these 5 people's experiences in life are because of saying yes to their break, and how it has changed their life. Because I knew back in 2014, when I came back, I knew that taking a career break could be a very transformative experience. And it's super freaking fantastic that my life now is helping other people do the same. So I'm really grateful for this. I'm grateful for all of you all and everybody that attended. So unless we have any last minute questions, I'm going to release you all into your evenings or your days. But I'm just so grateful to everybody that was here. So thank you. Yeah. And thank you, Allison. Yeah. It's just super exciting. So you guys are amazing. Thank you so, so much. It's been such a joy.
Thank you, Katrina,
Awesome.
for everything.
You're so welcome.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Hi, Katrina, I agree.
Thanks,
Thank you for
Katrina.
everything.
Thank
You guys are so welcome. I love you both so much.